There comes a moment in life, often during the quiet hours between dusk and sleep, when the silence in the house no longer feels gentle. It doesn't soothe like it used to. Instead, it presses in around you, not loud, but heavy. You sit in your favorite chair, the one you've kept for years, and you notice how your mind won't settle. Thoughts begin to drift in. Little worries, old regrets, imagined futures, and before you even realize it, anxiety has taken a seat beside you, uninvited. But what if I told you that this anxiety isn't proof that something is wrong with you? That it's not a weakness or a failure, not a punishment for having lived too long or loved too deeply? What if instead anxiety was a signpost pointing you towards something important? In the teachings of the Buddha, suffering, including anxiety, isn't something to be fought, but something to be understood. And more than that, it's something that can guide us back to what really matters. You see, many of us were taught to push anxiety away, to ignore it, suppress it, or cover it up with distractions. But Buddhist wisdom teaches something radically different. It teaches that our discomfort can be a doorway. That anxiety isn't our enemy. It's our teacher, arriving with a message we perhaps ignored for too long, especially in the later chapters of life. When there's more stillness, more space to feel, more time to remember, this message grows louder. We are no longer rushing from task to task. Instead, we are left with ourselves, with our thoughts, with our breath. And that is where the deeper work begins. If you're enjoying this story, how about leaving a comment? We'd love to know what you think and how you feel about what's going on. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss the next parts of this exciting journey. So in today's reflection, we're going to explore one powerful thought, one ancient idea from the heart of Buddhist philosophy that doesn't erase anxiety, but gently shifts how we hold it. This idea has comforted monks in remote mountains, calmed warriors before battle, and brought peace to countless people like you and me, ordinary people navigating the quiet storms of daily life. If you've ever felt trapped in your thoughts, overwhelmed by feelings you can't name, or simply exhausted from carrying the weight of worry for so long, stay with me. This isn't about denial or toxic positivity. It's about truth. It's about freedom. Because the truth is you are not broken. You are not failing. You are simply being invited to see anxiety differently. Let's begin not by fighting it, but by meeting it right where it lives in our own minds and in the things we hold on to the most. The root of anxiety, attachment and aversion. Anxiety doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's not a bolt of lightning crashing down without cause. No, it is roots. And in the quiet wisdom of Buddhism, those roots are known by two powerful names, attachment and aversion. These aren't just ideas. Their patterns are woven into how we respond to life, especially as we age. Think of attachment as the grasping hand of the mind. It clings to the things we love, to comfort, to certainty, to the people we built our lives around. And when life threatens to change, as it always does, that grasping becomes fear. It says, "Don't take this from me." On the other side is aversion, the part of us that pushes away what we don't want. Pain, loss, illness, loneliness, even the idea of growing older. We reject it, resist it, fight it, hoping that maybe, just maybe, if we push hard enough, it will leave us alone. But clinging and resisting are exhausting. And more than that, they don't work. As the Buddha taught, whatever is subject to arising is subject to ceasing. In other words, everything, and I do mean everything, changes. Your body changes. Your relationships shift. Even your emotions, those storms that seem to last forever, will rise and fall like waves. Yet, it's our refusal to accept this truth that gives rise to anxiety. Take for example an old friend of mine named Tom, a retired Navy veteran, who used to walk the lake trail near his home every morning at 6 a.m. sharp. It was part of who he was, that discipline, that routine. But when a hip injury forced him to stop, Tom began to unravel. He didn't just lose a habit. He lost what he had come to believe was a part of his identity. His anxiety grew. He began to dread the mornings. Those quiet hours that used to bring him peace now only reminded him of what he had lost. In a conversation over tea, I gently asked him, "Tom, what is it you're holding on to?" He paused, looked out the window, and whispered, "The version of me that could still move freely." This is what the Buddha pointed to. Our suffering isn't born from change itself, but from our refusal to let go of how things used to be. When we cling to the past or reject the present, anxiety slips into the space between, and it begins to whisper, "You are losing control." But here's the liberating truth. We never had control to begin with. The lotus grows in muddy water, and yet it blooms in beauty. Likewise, our peace doesn't come from keeping everything the same. It comes from learning to open our hands, to stop grasping, to stop pushing, and simply allow life to be what it is. You are not your routines. You are not your youth. You are not your past. And when you begin to loosen your grip on expectations, on perfection, on the need to have it all figured out, you'll start to notice something incredible. Anxiety begins to loosen its grip on you too. The thought that frees you. This too is just a thought. There's a moment in everyone's life. Maybe it comes in the still hours before dawn, or perhaps in the middle of a crowded afternoon, when a thought arrives uninvited and settles like a weight on the chest. It might whisper, "Something's wrong," or shout, "What if this never gets better?" And before we know it, we are no longer living in the present moment. We are living inside the thought. It becomes a world of its own, a world filled with shadows, tension, and fear. But the Buddha in his quiet clarity offered a thought so simple, so gently powerful that it can begin to unravel anxiety at its root. That thought is this. This too is just a thought. Pause with that for a moment. Not every thought is true. Not every thought is worthy of your trust. Some are echoes of old fears. Some are habits of worry passed down like family heirlooms. Some are simply the brain doing what it's done for decades, scanning, protecting, imagining. But a thought, no matter how loud or persistent, is not a fact. It is a passing cloud across the sky of your awareness. A monk once said, "Don't believe everything you think. Even the thoughts that feel urgent are often just ripples on the surface of the mind." And the more we meditate, reflect, and truly observe, the more we begin to see the truth. In this anxiety, as overwhelming as it can feel, often begins with a single thought. And that thought gains power only when we believe it without question. Take, for instance, the story of a woman named Marlene, 76, widowed, and adjusting to a quieter life than she had known for decades. After her husband passed, she began experiencing a strange kind of fear. She would sit alone in her living room and suddenly worry, "What if I fall and no one's there? What if I forget to turn off the stove? What if I start losing my memory?" These weren't unrealistic fears. They were grounded in possibility, but they weren't happening. They were thoughts, and they arrived with a pounding heart, a tight chest, and a racing mind. But Marlene began attending weekly mindfulness classes at the senior center. One afternoon, her instructor asked the group to write down the sentence, "This thought is not me. It is just a thought." At first, it felt silly, but over time, this became Marlene's anchor. Each time the fear arose, she would gently repeat it. "This thought is not me. It is just a thought." And like a knot slowly coming undone, the grip of those fears began to loosen. You see, in Buddhism, this is known as non-identification, the wisdom of knowing that your thoughts are not who you are. They are movements in the mind like wind passing through leaves. Some are helpful, some are not. But none of them define your essence. The practice then is not to suppress anxious thoughts, nor to shame yourself for having them. The practice is to see them clearly, to say, "Ah, I see you thought. You are trying to protect me. You are trying to warn me, but you are not reality, and you are not in control. It's a small shift from being inside the thought to standing beside it. But this shift is everything. Did you like what's happened so far? Then don't miss the next chapters. Subscribe, like, and share with your friends so that everyone can follow this incredible story. We can't wait to hear what you think and to keep surprising you.